The giant alien ship appeared suddenly in Earth's orbit one quiet Tuesday morning in 2157. It was 5 times bigger than anything humans had ever built. Its dark metal hull gleamed in the sunlight as it moved slowly toward the International Space Station Alpha. Fleet Commander Olivia Martinez stood at the viewing window of the station. Her hands were clasped behind her back as she watched the ship approach. She wore her blue uniform with its gold buttons and the Earth Defense Force patch on her shoulder. Her short brown hair was neatly combed, and her green eyes were fixed on the alien vessel. "They're hailing us, Commander," said Lieutenant Frank Wilson from his desk at the communications panel. Martinez nodded. "Put them through." The large screen at the front of the room flickered to life. A tall alien with purple skin and 4 eyes looked down at them. It had no hair and wore a uniform covered in strange symbols. This was Ambassador Zix Krull of the Galactic Hegemony, ruler of 300 star systems. "Greetings, Earth creatures," the alien said in perfect English. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "I am here to accept your surrender." Martinez stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. I'm Fleet Commander Olivia Martinez of the Earth Defense Force. But I think there has been a misunderstanding. We have no plans to surrender." The alien made a sound like laughter. "How amusing. Your species has barely left its own planet. The hegemony has ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. You will surrender your resources and accept your place as our servants, or we will take what we want by force." People around the control room looked at each other with worry. Earth had only a small fleet of ships, mostly built for exploration and defense against asteroids. They were not ready for war with an advanced alien empire. Martinez kept her face calm. "We would prefer to establish peaceful relations with your people, Ambassador. Earth is open to trade, cultural exchange, and diplomatic ties." Zix Krull's upper eyes blinked slowly. "You misunderstand, human. This is not a negotiation. You have 1 Earth day to surrender control of your mining operations and water reserves. Our ships will arrive tomorrow to begin collection." The screen went dark. Captain Steve Rogers, Martinez's second in command, moved to her side. "What do we do now?" "We prepare," Martinez said quietly. "Alert all Earth defense ships, and get me a direct line to the United Nations Security Council." The next 24 hours were a blur of activity. Defense ships moved into position around Earth. The UN held emergency meetings. Scientists and military leaders studied the little information they had about the alien ship. Exactly 1 day later, the alien ship moved closer to the space station. 3 smaller ships emerged from its sides. Martinez stood in the same spot as before. "Hail them," she ordered. When Zix Krull appeared on screen, Martinez spoke firmly. "Ambassador, we have considered your demands. Earth respectfully declines. We wish to establish peaceful relations, but we will not surrender our resources or our freedom." The alien's face showed no emotion. "Then you choose extinction." It turned to someone off-screen. "Fire." The control room shook as the first blast hit the station. Alarms blared and red lights flashed. "Return fire," Martinez yelled as she grabbed onto a desk to steady herself. "Get everyone to the escape pods." Earth's small defense fleet moved to protect the station, firing their weapons at the alien ships. They managed to damage one of the smaller vessels, but they were clearly outmatched. The station shook again. A support beam crashed down, striking Martinez on the shoulder. She fell to her knees, blood soaking through her uniform. Rogers grabbed her arm. "Commander, we need to evacuate now." As they moved toward the escape pods, Martinez looked back at the viewing window. More Earth ships had arrived and were fighting bravely. To her surprise, the alien ships were pulling back. The last thing Martinez saw before the escape pod doors closed was one of the alien smaller ships exploding. Perhaps humans weren't as helpless as the hegemony thought. As her pod shot toward Earth, Martinez made a silent promise. This wasn't over. Humanity would not bow down. They would fight back. and somehow they would win. 5 years passed since the first attack. The world had changed. Countries that once fought each other now worked together under the Earth Defense Coalition. Everyone knew they needed to unite or die. Admiral Gregory Washington stood in a hidden base deep inside the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. He was a tall man with dark skin and gray at his temples. His blue uniform was crisp, and his eyes were focused on the massive ship being built in front of him. "How much longer?" he asked. Engineer Lisa Bennett looked up from her tablet. She had red hair pulled back in a ponytail and wore a gray jumpsuit with oil stains. 3 weeks, sir. We're installing the gravity drives now." Washington nodded. The Leviathan project was Earth's best hope. After the attack, humans had studied the wrecked alien ships and learned much from them. The project combined that alien knowledge with human creativity to build something the hegemony would never expect. "And the weapons systems?" Washington asked. "Richard is working on the final calibrations," Bennett said, pointing to her colleague across the massive hangar. Richard Daniels was bent over a control panel, his blonde hair messy as he typed quickly on a keyboard. He was the genius behind the new weapons that would give Earth a fighting chance. "Show me the gravity drive," Washington said. Bennett led him to a large room in the center of the ship. Inside was a sphere that glowed with blue light. It hummed with power. "This is it," she said proudly. "The first human-built FTL drive. Faster than light travel, based on the technology we salvaged from the Hegemony scout ship." Washington walked around the sphere. "And it works. We've tested it on smaller vessels. It works better than the alien version. Richard found a way to make it more efficient." Washington smiled slightly. That was the human advantage. They didn't just copy alien technology, they improved it. Bennett pointed to the walls around them. "And the ship itself is twice the size of any known hegemony vessel. They don't build them this big because they think it's impossible to control the gravity fields at this scale. But you solved that problem." "Yes, sir. The U.S. Defiant will be the largest battleship ever built by any species we know of." Washington nodded. "Keep this classified. I don't want anyone outside this base to know what we're building. Not even the coalition leaders." He walked back to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the hegemony was planning another attack on Earth. They didn't know what was waiting for them this time. In another part of the base, Captain Samantha Kelly reviewed crew assignments for the Defiant. She was younger than most captains, only 35, but she had fought in the first attack and earned her position through skill and courage. Her second in command, Lieutenant Commander Alan Edwards, entered the room. "Captain, we just intercepted a hegemony transmission," he said urgently. "They're sending a scout fleet to the Sol system. Arrival in 2 weeks." Kelly stood up. "Does Admiral Washington know?" "He's been informed. He wants us ready to launch in 10 days. "But the ship isn't finished," Kelly said. "It will have to be enough. The main systems are operational. We can finish the rest after we deal with the scouts." Kelly nodded. "Tell the crew, double shifts starting now. We need to be ready." Edwards hesitated. "Do you think we can win, Captain? There will be at least 6 hegemony ships." Kelly looked at the plans for the Defiant on her screen. The ship was massive, powerful, and unlike anything the aliens had ever faced. "They're expecting to find a weak, primitive species still licking its wounds," she said. "Instead, they'll find the Defiant. Yes, Commander, we're going to win." Throughout the asteroid base, humans worked day and night. Welders attached armor plates. Engineers tested systems. Weapons specialists loaded missiles and charged energy banks. The sleeping giant was awakening. Humanity was preparing for war. And this time, they would not be the victims. The Hegemony Scout fleet entered the Sol system with confidence. 6 ships moved past the outer planets, their sensors scanning for human defenses. General Krithal stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, his 4 arms crossed over his chest. His green scales shimmered under the ship's lights. "Report," he commanded. A junior officer looked up from her console. "No sign of significant defenses, General." "Just as expected." Kurthal made a clicking sound with his teeth. "These humans are even weaker than we thought. Emperor Vos Mer will be pleased when we bring him news that Earth is ready for harvesting." "Sir," another officer called out, "we're picking up some unusual energy readings from behind the gas giant they call Jupiter." Kurthal waved a dismissive hand. "Probably a mining operation. The primitive monkeys have been trying to gather resources from their outer planets." Hidden behind Jupiter's massive bulk, the U.S. Defiant waited. The enormous ship was dark, running on minimal power to avoid detection. Inside the bridge, Captain Samantha Kelly watched the alien fleet on her screens. "Status report," she said quietly. Lieutenant Commander Alan Edwards looked up from his communications station. "I'm intercepting their transmissions, Captain. They don't suspect we're here. They're calling us primitive monkeys." Several crew members frowned, but Kelly just smiled. "Good. Let them think that." "Weapons status." "Main cannons charged and ready," replied Weapons Officer Paul Davis. "Missile bays loaded." Kelly nodded. "Engineering." Chief Engineer Patricia Collins' voice came through the comm system. "Gravity drive at full capacity, Captain. Stealth systems functioning perfectly. They can't see us unless we want them to." Kelly looked at her second in command. "Time to show the hegemony what these primitive monkeys can do. Helm, take us in. Keep the stealth systems active until my mark." The massive human battleship moved silently from behind Jupiter. It was twice the size of the largest hegemony vessel, its black hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The ship's advanced stealth technology, based on improved alien designs, made it invisible to hegemony sensors. On the bridge of the lead hegemony ship, General Kurthal was planning his report to the Emperor when an officer suddenly shouted, "General, massive object appearing directly ahead." "What?" Kurthal spun around just as the main screen showed a huge dark shape materializing less than a kilometer away. "Impossible." On the Defiant, Kelly stood from her captain's chair. "Deactivate stealth systems. Let them see us." The Defiant suddenly became visible to the alien fleet. Its hull gleamed as external lights activated, illuminating the name and Earth insignia painted on its side. Kurthal stared in disbelief. "That can't be. Their technology isn't advanced enough to build something that size." "They're hailing us, General," said his communications officer. "Put them through," Kurthal ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. Captain Kelly's face appeared on the hegemony view screen. "This is Captain Samantha Kelly of the Earth Defense Force vessel Defiant. You are trespassing in Earth space. You have 2 minutes to surrender." Kurthal laughed, though his crew noticed it sounded forced. "You expect the galactic hegemony to surrender to primitives. Your ship may be large, but size means nothing without advanced weapons." Kelly just smiled. 1 minute, 50 seconds remaining. Kurthal turned to his weapons officer. "Target that human vessel and fire everything we have." The hegemony ships fired energy beams and missiles at the Defiant. The weapons struck the human ship's shields, creating ripples of blue light, but causing no damage. "Shields holding at 98%, Captain," reported Davis. "They're hitting us with everything they've got." Kelly nodded. "Time's up. Target the 3 ships on the left. Leave the smallest vessel intact." "Aye, Captain," Davis replied, pressing buttons on his console. The Defiant's main cannons lit up. 3 beams of intense white energy shot out, each striking the different hegemony ship. The alien vessels didn't just take damage. They completely disintegrated. On his bridge, General Kurthal watched in horror as half his fleet vanished in seconds. "Retreat," he screamed. All ships jumped to FTL immediately. Kelly watched calmly as the remaining ships tried to flee. The Defiant's weapons targeted 2 more, destroying them before they could escape. Only the smallest vessel managed to activate its faster-than-light drive and disappear into space. Let it go, Kelly said. We need someone to carry our message back to the hegemony. Edwards looked at her. What message is that, Captain? Kelly turned to face her crew, her expression serious. That humanity is not as primitive as they thought, and we're coming for them next. The Grand Council chamber on Sultor Prime was filled with angry voices. 50 alien leaders from across the hegemony sat around a massive table made of rare blue crystal. At the head of the table, Emperor Vosner slammed his fist down, causing the surface to vibrate. Silence, he roared. His red skin darkened with anger, and the tentacles around his mouth quivered. This is unacceptable. The room grew quiet. The Emperor glared at the small green alien standing before him. Science Director Peltor, you expect me to believe that primitive humans destroyed 5 of our ships with 1 vessel? Peltor adjusted his viewing lenses nervously. The evidence is clear, Your Majesty. The surviving ship recorded everything. He pressed a button on his wrist device. A large hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the massive human battleship appearing out of nowhere and destroying the hegemony vessels with ease. This must be a trick, said Vosner. Some kind of illusion. Humans are barely space-capable. That was true 5 years ago, Peltor said. But it seems they have advanced much faster than we predicted. The ship they call Defiant is approximately twice the size of our largest dreadnought. Murmurs of disbelief filled the chamber. Impossible, shouted War Commander Drazkal. No species could advance that quickly. In a small corner of the chamber, a young woman with brown hair watched the meeting carefully. She wore the simple gray uniform of a junior analyst, but she was actually Maria Rodriguez, a human spy. She had infiltrated the hegemony capital 2 years ago, and now worked in their intelligence division. As the alien leaders argued, Maria secretly activated the transmitter hidden in her sleeve. All their words were now being sent to Earth through a special quantum channel that the hegemony couldn't detect. The humans must have had help, suggested another council member. Perhaps the Arcturians have broken their neutrality pact. No, said Peltor. Our analysis shows this is human-built technology. They have taken our designs and improved them. The Emperor's eyes widened. Improved hegemony technology. Preposterous. Peltor played more of the recording. The council watched as the Defiant's weapons tore through the hegemony ships like they were made of paper. Their weapons are unlike anything we've seen before, Peltor explained. They appear to be based on gravity manipulation, but far more advanced than our own. Maria listened carefully. This was exactly the information Earth needed. The hegemony didn't understand how humans had leaped forward so quickly. This confusion gave Earth an advantage. The Emperor stood up. I will not allow these primitive animals to threaten the hegemony. We have ruled for 10,000 years. We will not be challenged by a species that was throwing spears at each other just a few centuries ago. He turned to War Commander Drazkal. Prepare the invasion fleet, not just scout ships this time. I want 5 dreadnoughts and 50 support vessels. We will crush Earth once and for all. The aliens in the room cheered. Maria kept her face blank, but her heart raced. She needed to get this information back to Earth immediately. As the meeting ended, Science Director Peltor approached Maria. Junior Analyst Zorka, I need you to compile all our data on human technology. Maria nodded, using the fake name she had been given. Yes, Director. Right away. She returned to her small office and began gathering the files. As she worked, she noticed a shadow fall across her desk. She looked up to see Security Chief Moxbar standing in her doorway. Junior Analyst, he said coldly. Our systems detected an unusual transmission during the council meeting. Maria kept her face calm. Sir, it came from this section of the building. His 4 eyes narrowed. Stand up slowly. Maria knew she had been discovered. She had only seconds to send a final message before they arrested her. As she stood, she pressed a hidden button on her desk, sending all her gathered intelligence to Earth. You're making a mistake, she said, playing for time. Moxvar pulled out a scanner and aimed it at her. It beeped loudly. "Human," he hissed, his voice filled with disgust. "Guards, seize this spy." Maria knew her cover was blown. Now she just had to find a way to escape and get back to Earth before the invasion fleet launched. The space around Proxima Centauri, the star closest to Earth's sun, filled with hegemony ships. 5 massive dreadnoughts formed the center of the fleet. Around them, 50 smaller vessels moved in careful patterns. This was the largest fleet the hegemony had ever assembled for a single attack. On the bridge of the lead dreadnought, War Commander Draz Kull studied the star maps. His gray skin was tight across his face, and his yellow eyes narrowed as he planned the attack on Earth. "All ships report ready," Commander said, his second-in-command. Draz Kull nodded. "The Emperor expects us to return with news of Earth's destruction. We will not fail." Miles away, hidden behind Proxima Centauri's third planet, 3 human battleships waited. The U.S. Defiant was joined by 2 new ships, the U.S. Liberty and the U.S. Victory. Though not as large as the Defiant, they were still bigger than any hegemony vessel. Admiral Howard Chen stood on the Defiant's bridge. He was a calm man with steady hands and a reputation for careful planning. "Status report," he said to his bridge crew. "All systems ready, Admiral," Captain Kelly replied. She had been promoted but chose to remain on the Defiant as second-in-command for this crucial mission. The Liberty and Victory confirmed they're in position, added Communications Officer Edwards. Chen nodded. "And the special package." Chief Engineer Patricia Collins stepped forward. She held a small device in her hands, a cylinder that glowed with blue light. "The Nova bomb is ready, sir," she said. "Once activated, we'll have 3 minutes to get to a safe distance." Chen looked at the tactical display showing the hegemony fleet. They were preparing to jump to Earth's system. They had no idea that humans now had faster-than-light sensors that could detect their presence. Maria's last transmission was clear. Chen said quietly, "They're throwing everything they have at us. This is our chance to end this war before it truly begins." Kelly looked concerned. "Do you think she made it out?" Chen's face grew sad. "We don't know, but her information has given us this opportunity. We won't waste it." He turned to the helm officer. "Prepare for FTL jump. We'll emerge directly in the middle of their formation." The officer's eyes widened, but he nodded and entered the coordinates. Chen looked at Collins. "How close do we need to be for the Nova bomb to affect their entire fleet?" "Within 5,000 kilometers of the center point," she replied. "But sir, that's dangerously close. When it detonates—" "I know the risks," Chen interrupted. "All ships, prepare for jump." The 3 human battleships vanished from their hiding place. In a flash of light, they reappeared directly in the middle of the hegemony formation. The alien ships scattered in confusion, alarms blaring across their fleet. On his bridge, Draz Kull stared in shock at the 3 massive human vessels that had appeared from nowhere. "How did they find us?" he shouted. "How did they get here?" His tactical officer was already giving orders. "All ships, open fire." Before the hegemony could react, Admiral Chen's voice boomed across all communication channels. "Attention hegemony fleet. This is Admiral Howard Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You are planning an attack on our home world. We offer you one chance to retreat and never return to Earth space." Draz Kull snarled and pressed his communication button. "We are the Galactic Hegemony. We do not retreat from primitives. Your ships will be destroyed, and your planet will be harvested." On the Defiant, Chen sighed. "I expected as much." Captain Kelly launched the Nova bomb. "All ships prepare for emergency FTL jump on my mark." Kelly took the glowing device from Collins and placed it in a special launcher. "Nova bomb away, Admiral." The small cylinder shot out from the Defiant, moving quickly toward the center of the hegemony formation. "What is that?" Draz Kull demanded as his sensors detected the small object. His science officer studied her readings, then looked up in horror. "Commander, we must leave immediately." that device contains. She never finished her sentence. The Nova bomb detonated, creating a miniature star that expanded rapidly. The intense heat and radiation vaporized the nearest hegemony ships instantly. The shockwave spread outward, damaging or destroying vessels farther away. "Jump now," Chen ordered. The 3 human battleships vanished just as the edge of the explosion reached them. They reappeared at a safe distance and watched as half the hegemony fleet was consumed by the artificial nova. "The remaining ships are trying to flee," Kelly reported. Chen's face was grim but determined. "Pursue and destroy them all. None can return to report what happened here." The human ships moved forward, hunting down the survivors one by one. News of the hegemony's defeat spread quickly through the galaxy. It started as whispers in spaceports and trading stations. Then it grew louder. A fleet of 55 ships destroyed. The mighty hegemony beaten by humans, a species they had dismissed as primitive. Nicole Wright sat at her desk in the Earth Communications Center. She was a tall woman with short black hair and a determined look in her brown eyes. As communications director for the Earth Defense Force, her job was to make sure everyone in the galaxy heard about the human victory. "Are we ready to broadcast?" she asked her team. A young technician nodded. "All systems go, Director. We can reach about 60% of hegemony-controlled worlds with this transmission." Wright smiled. "That's enough. The word will spread from there." She pressed a button on her console. "This is Communications Director Nicole Wright of Earth. We are broadcasting this message to all species in the galaxy. 3 days ago, the Galactic Hegemony sent a fleet to destroy our world. That fleet has been eliminated." She paused, then continued. "We are not a violent species by nature. We offered peace. The hegemony chose war. To all worlds suffering under hegemony rule, their power is not absolute. Their technology is not superior. Their empire is not invincible." The broadcast included footage from the battle, showing the human ships facing the much larger hegemony fleet and the aftermath of their victory. On the planet Vorla, a race of tall, thin aliens with blue skin gathered in their city squares to watch the broadcast on public screens. For 200 years, they had been forced to mine their world's resources for the hegemony. "Is this real?" asked one Vorlan to another. "Can the hegemony truly be defeated?" His friend watched the screen with wide eyes. "If the humans could do it, why not us?" That night, the Vorlans attacked the hegemony outpost on their world. By morning, the alien overseers were gone, and the Vorlan flag flew again. Similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. The Talgarians, a species of winged beings, overthrew their hegemony masters in a single day. The reptilian Sorans reclaimed their homeworld after a brief but fierce battle. On Earth, Jason Butler prepared for his mission. He was a seasoned diplomat with silver hair and a friendly face that hid a sharp mind. As the newly appointed diplomatic envoy, he would meet with representatives from the rebellious worlds. "The shuttle is ready, Mr. Butler," his assistant said. Butler nodded and gathered his papers. "This is just the beginning. The hegemony has ruled through fear for too long. Now that fear is gone." His first meeting was with leaders from 7 different species on the neutral world of Terra II. They gathered in a large room with a round table, symbols of their worlds displayed before them. "The hegemony has ruled us for generations," said the Vorlan leader. "But their forces are stretched thin now, responding to uprisings on many worlds." Butler nodded. "Earth proposes an alliance. The Free Worlds Alliance. Together, we can ensure the hegemony never threatens any of our people again." "What exactly are you offering?" asked the Talgarian representative, her wings folded behind her back. "Military support," Butler replied. "Technology sharing, free trade, and most importantly, mutual defense. An attack on one is an attack on all." The alien leaders looked at each other. For many of them, the idea of true freedom was new and frightening, but the hope in their eyes was clear. Meanwhile, on Celtor Prime, chaos reigned. Reports of lost worlds flooded in hourly. The Emperor's palace was surrounded by angry citizens demanding answers. Inside the palace, a group of military leaders approached Emperor Vosner's private chambers. They carried weapons and moved with purpose. "The Emperor has failed us," said General Korvax. "He underestimated the humans. Now our empire crumbles." They burst into the room. There was a brief shout, then silence. The next day, the announcement came. Emperor Vosner was dead. The hegemony would now be led by a military council. But it was too late. The empire had already begun to fall apart. World after world declared independence or joined the new Free Worlds Alliance. And at the center of it all was Earth, a planet that had gone from target to liberator in less than a decade. 3 years passed. The hegemony had lost 2/3 of its territory to the Free Worlds Alliance. What remained was ruled with an iron fist by Grand Admiral Krelvex, a 6-armed warrior with black scales and cold yellow eyes. He stood in the war room on Celtor Prime, looking at a map of the galaxy. "We cannot win a direct war against the humans and their allies," Krelvex said to his generals. "Not anymore." An older general named Zorlak frowned. "Then what do you propose, Grand Admiral?" "Surrender." Krelvex hissed in anger. "Never. We will use the planet killer." The room fell silent. Even the most hardened warriors looked uncomfortable. "The planet killer was never meant to be used," Zorlak said quietly. "It was built as a deterrent only." "And now we will use it as a weapon," Krelvex replied. "Against the human colonies first, then their allies. We will remind the galaxy why they feared the hegemony for 10,000 years." Light years away on the human colony world of New Eden, children played in parks under a warm orange sun. Farmers tended their fields. It was a peaceful place, home to 3 million humans. In orbit above the planet, a small hegemony vessel appeared. It was not a warship but a special craft designed for one purpose. It released a single probe toward the planet's surface. The probe entered the atmosphere and buried itself deep in the ground. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the planet shook. The ground split open. Energy beams shot up from the core. In less than an hour, New Eden was gone. Its people and cities turned to dust. The same happened at New Terra, another human colony. 6 million more lives ended in minutes. On Earth, Fleet Commander Olivia Martinez stood before the Free Worlds Alliance Council. 8 years had passed since she was wounded in the first attack. Now she wore the uniform of the Alliance fleet, her hair streaked with gray, her face lined with scars and worry. But her eyes still burned with determination. "2 of our colony worlds have been destroyed," she said to the gathered representatives of 20 different species. "The hegemony has deployed a weapon called the Planet Killer. We believe they salvaged it from an ancient race. It targets a planet's core, causing it to self-destruct." The council chamber erupted in panic. Martinez raised her hand for silence. "We have tracked the hegemony vessel responsible. It is heading for the Arcturus system, where 3 more colony worlds are located. I am taking command of our largest battle group to intercept it." "What ship will you use?" asked the Vorlon representative. Martinez's face showed a grim smile. "The U.S. Vengeance, our newest and largest battleship." The U.S. Vengeance moved through space toward the Arcturus system. It was even larger than the Defiant, a true behemoth of war. Behind it came 12 more Alliance ships, including vessels built by the Vorlons and Talgarians using human technology. On the bridge, Martinez studied the tactical displays. "Any sign of the hegemony ship?" "Yes, Commander," replied her sensor officer. "It's in orbit around Arcturus IV, preparing to deploy the Planet Killer." "How long until we're in range?" 20 minutes. Martinez nodded. "Too long. The colony will be gone by then." She made a difficult decision. "Prepare for emergency FTL jump. We'll go in alone. The rest of the fleet can follow standard protocols." "That's risky," her second-in-command warned. "We don't know what defenses they have." "I know, Martinez said, "But I won't lose another colony." The massive human battleship disappeared, then reappeared directly above Arcturus IV. Below them, the hegemony vessel was just releasing its deadly probe. "Target that probe," Martinez ordered. "All weapons, fire." Energy beams from the Vengeance struck the probe, destroying it before it could reach the planet's surface. The hegemony ship tried to escape, but the human vessel was too fast, too powerful. "They're hailing us," reported the communications officer. "Put them through," Martinez said. The face of Grand Admiral Krelvex appeared on the screen. His yellow eyes narrowed when he saw Martinez. "You," he said, "the one from the first contact." Martinez nodded. 8 years ago, you came to our world offering only destruction. You never bothered to learn our names or understand our civilization. You saw us as primitives to be conquered. And I was right," Krelvex snarled. "Look what you've become. Warriors, killers, just like us." Martinez shook her head. "No, not like you. We fight to protect, not to dominate. Surrender your vessel and the planet killer technology." Krelvex laughed. "I would rather die." "That can be arranged," Martinez said calmly. "But the planet killer will be ours either way." 1 year after the Battle of Arcturus, representatives from 124 different species gathered on Earth. They met in a massive new building called the Harmony Dome in what was once called Geneva, Switzerland. The dome's ceiling showed a real-time map of the galaxy, with thousands of stars twinkling above the gathered delegates. At the center of the room stood a round table large enough for all the representatives to sit together as equals. Admiral Gregory Washington, now much older with completely white hair, walked slowly to the center of the room. As the hero of humanity's resistance and architect of the Defiant Project, he had been chosen to lead these historic peace talks. "Welcome to Earth," he said, his voice carrying across the chamber. 10 years ago, many of you had never heard of humans. Others knew us only as subjects to be conquered. Today, we meet as equals to build a future together." The hegemony delegation sat stiffly in their section. After the capture of the planet killer and the death of Grand Admiral Krelvex, the remains of the once mighty empire had finally agreed to peace talks. Their territory now covered only 30 star systems, a tiny fraction of their former domain. "The human-led coalition proposes a new government," Washington continued. "The Galactic Senate, where all species will have equal representation, regardless of their military power or technological advancement." A tall Vorlon stood up. "And what of the worlds that suffered under hegemony rule for generations? What justice will they receive?" Washington nodded. "All former hegemony worlds will be granted full independence and the right to choose their own governments. Additionally, the remains of the hegemony will pay reparations in the form of technology and resources to help rebuild damaged worlds." The leader of the hegemony delegation, a red-skinned female named Turnak, rose slowly. "The hegemony agrees to these terms," she said, her voice tight with suppressed anger. "We have no choice." "You always had a choice," Washington replied. "You chose conquest instead of cooperation. Now you must live with the consequences of that choice." Later that day, scientist Sophia Johnson presented her findings to a smaller group of delegates. She was a brilliant geneticist who had spent years studying both human and alien DNA. "Our research has led to an extraordinary discovery," she said, pointing to a display showing complex genetic patterns. "Humans were not just a naturally evolved species. We were genetically engineered by a precursor race that vanished from the galaxy approximately 50,000 years ago." The alien delegates murmured in surprise. "The markers in our DNA show deliberate modifications to increase our adaptability, creativity, and capacity for technological development," Johnson explained. "Simply put, humans were designed to advance quickly under pressure." A Talgarian delegate fluttered his wings nervously. "Did the hegemony know this?" "Yes," came a voice from the back of the room. Maria Rodriguez walked forward. She had escaped from Celtor Prime years ago, and now served as head of Alliance Intelligence. They found evidence of human genetic engineering in their first scans of Earth. That's why they attacked so quickly. They were afraid of what we might become. The news spread throughout the galaxy in the following days. Many species were shocked to learn that humans had been created as the heirs to an ancient, powerful civilization. 1 month later, the Galactic Senate was officially formed. Admiral Washington was elected as the first human chancellor, a position he accepted with humility. On the day of his inauguration, he stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiant. The ship that had changed the course of the war now served as the flagship of the new galactic peacekeeping force. "Chancellor," said Captain Kelly, now commander of the Defiant, "the Senate is waiting for your arrival." Washington looked out at the stars. 10 years ago, we were fighting for our survival. Now we're helping to run the galaxy. He shook his head in wonder. But this is just the beginning. "Sir," Kelly asked. "The precursors engineered us for a purpose," Washington said. "Perhaps it was for this moment, to bring unity to the galaxy, or perhaps it's for something still to come." As the Defiant moved toward Earth, its massive hull gleamed in the sunlight. Once, the hegemony had been shocked that humans could build such a vessel. Now, it was just one symbol of how far humanity had come, and how far they might still go. In the vast darkness of space, at the edge of the galaxy, something ancient stirred. Humanity's journey to the stars had only just begun.